Rise and fall of Midnight Club franchise. There's something about racing with overly flashy or retro-styled muscle cars on the streets in games that provide a special thrill to players. It's like being able to live your road fantasies for people of any age. Midnight Club was the go-to for people to relive that feeling back in the day. Until GTA and Red Dead Redemption were established gaming behemoths, launching new extra content for their online modes on a regular basis to generate recurrent money for Take-Two Interactive, Rockstar Games produced a variety of games, such as the epic and crowd-favorite Midnight Club. The classic title was one among the few games released by the studio for the year. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Nah, not from Emilio, you ain't.
Rise of Midnight Club franchise. Midnight Club Street Racing. Midnight Club Street Racing, released in October 2000 for the emerging PlayStation 2, was the first title by Angel Studios for Rockstar. The game had regions of interest: London and New York. You began your buried racing career in a yellow cab, then rose through the ranks by winning races. Except for the taxi, most of the cars imitated the Japanese customization vibe of the time, with the exception of a few which were not situated in Japan. The structure is easy to follow. Beam your headlights at a competitor, follow them via checkpoints, and beat them at the finish line to win the race. The character starts out in his taxi, which is a slow and basic vehicle. It beats rival racers and earns speedier and costlier automobiles by competing in a number of events with diverse purposes. The aim is to overcome the global champ Annika, a young Japanese woman whose dad is a prototype car manufacturer in Japan. The player is the only one who discovers her secret and becomes the world champion of the Midnight Club, as well as wins her production car after being the first to beat her in a competition. After the race, Annika leaves for Japan. The only other platform on which it appeared was the Game Boy Advance, which was created by Rebellion Developments, who are currently known for their Sniper Elite titles. The very first Midnight Club game was crude by today's standards, but the atmosphere was groundbreaking and paved the path for subsequent open-world racing games.
She ain't gonna like you, my friend. She ain't the type that likes scrawny losers. When the hands go down, we go, yo.
Midnight Club 2. In the ensuing years, Angel Studios was going hard at work on not one, but two Smuggler's Run titles for Rockstar, Midtown Madness 2 for Microsoft, and a spin-off Test Drive. So, a Midnight Club successor was a long time coming. Rockstar San Diego, as it is now known, set out to substantially increase the series' influence. This round, it was available on Xbox, PC, and PS2. Los Angeles, Paris, and Tokyo were among the 3 open-world regions. Bikes were featured alongside vehicles as well as in-air automobile handling, as if that wasn't plenty. The project's scale was much broader than the team's previous Midnight Club and Midtown Madness projects. While the visuals were sharper and the information was more plentiful, no one thought Midnight Club 2 had that much personality. Once the thrill of the other racers' mononymous characters and two-wheeled racing had faded off. A race is made up of a succession of checkpoints, which are depicted by light rows. In certain competitions, the points must be completed in a specific order. A transparent, luminous path leads to the next stop in this situation. The checkpoints in other races can be completed in any sequence. The player can choose which path to take from one marker to the next. In the game's free world environment, there are no man-made restrictions that restrict the player to stay on a set route. To get to the next point, use any place that is navigable in the open cruise mode during races. The automobiles in Midnight Club 2 are all based on real-world vehicles, but they feature minor changes such as unique headlights or rear lights. Furthermore, the majority of them have visual changes such as spoilers and bodywork kits that are popular in the street driving and import sectors. The problem was that while the successor was clearly a step ahead of the previous version, Need for Speed Underground was published just a few months later, and it snatched the street racing throne as well as gamers' attention from the Midnight Club follow-up.
So you're baby's boy, huh? The one who says he's into cars. Cool. So what you into, Holmes?
Midnight Club 3, Dub Edition, and Dub Edition Remix. With the third installment, things truly picked up, as the game was flooded with authorized automobiles for the first time. We were in the midst of a silky R&B era, with Usher producing the second most purchased songs in America just months before the launch of Midnight Club 3. Meanwhile, Pimp My Ride had recently premiered on MTV, and the title came from a cooperation with Dub, an American automobile culture publication. Cadillac Escalades with much more bling than color, as seen on the game's cover beside a customized Chrysler 300C, were the result. It's a classic product of its era. To its favor, the game chose a concept and integrated it into an overall experience. The search for places was done, and 3 US cities were added: Atlanta, San Diego, and Detroit. The advent of car customization, such as wheels and wings, was a big development. Even a boring Volkswagen Phaeton was made to appear fascinating. The most comprehensive vehicle modification ever for a video game was the big claim at the time. For the first instance, this also represented the advent of making money. For so many, this is the series' pinnacle because of the extra depth. This was before the era of expansion packs, and it was on the PS2 and early Xbox, as well as a PSP spin-off. The Remix Edition, released a year after the original, adds a new UI, additional races, 24 new vehicles, and a revamped variant of the Tokyo location of Midnight Club 2. This game has an online option in which gamers can compete against peers from all over the world. Players can also join one of the many groups offered, or they can form and administer their own.
I don't want Boku racing. Who is you? I'm the guy who's gonna leave you in the dust.
Midnight Club, Los Angeles, LA Remix, and Complete Edition. The latest Midnight Club game, to time, tapped on the decade's theme, Los Angeles. MCLA, like its forerunners, is a historical piece. In other words, it's a little out of date, but perfectly so. The music is blasting, huge rear wings are standard, and you had a QWERTY keypad on your in-game cell phone to interact with your opponents. You also start your street racing career with a modest car, in most cases an MK1 Volkswagen Golf, which was an issue because progressing through the initial phases was sluggish. Everyone's all for the sense of accomplishment, which the early Gran Turismo games excel at. In the Midnight Club game, though, people felt like stepping into a faster car, and that was much more mind-numbing than anesthesia, which was thrilling. Even if you did get a faster car, it was still a Ford Focus or a standard Pontiac Firebird. The city graphics, on the other hand, had taken a significant stride in the right way. This was a faithful replica of Los Angeles at the time, maybe a little too yellow in tone. In a quasi-3D view, you can pan out from the game's map, which seemed like a technology from 2030. With Midnight Club Los Angeles, our goal is to improve on all possible levels while staying loyal to the rigorous gameplay experience the franchise is renowned for, while making it available to casual players and automobile aficionados, say Jay Panic, the series producer during that period. The game features high-speed open-world driving with harsh levels, spikes, and uninteresting cars. However, the 16-player networked gaming isn't to be overlooked. With LA Remix, this game was also released for the PSP, and a year after, the Complete Edition included all downloadable editions, including the South Central Update and Content Package, which added a new region to the game environment. Fall of Midnight Club franchise. Working with Angel Studios proved to be a wise decision for Rockstar, as the first Midnight Club was a hit and received positive views. It wasn't flawless, and it did suffer from many of the rough patches that games experienced at the time, but Rockstar was satisfied enough with the game, as its combination of graphical fidelity, a dark tone, and amusing gameplay confirmed to have more than enough to sell well and please driving enthusiasts. Midnight Club 2 was published shortly after, and it did precisely what it had to do by expanding on practically every facet of the game. Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition expanded more and more on the key aspects, though perhaps not as much as 2 did from 1. Nonetheless, the concept had grown in popularity to the point that it rivaled Need for Speed, and it had gained a sizable fan base, thanks to the excellent versions available for the Xbox and PSP. Midnight Club Los Angeles was published shortly after the next iteration of consoles were introduced, much to the joy of both old and new fans. The latest Midnight Club, like the previous games, improved on all areas, received positive reviews, and even included some useful customizing possibilities. Unlike many other series, Midnight Club's demise is not entirely evident, and a definitive cause remains elusive. However, allegations about difficult working conditions at Rockstar San Diego, including 12-hour days and work weeks that regularly extend into the weekends, were at an all-time high immediately after the opening of the Midnight Club LA. Many comments have been posted on various blogs and forums by people claiming to be unhappy customers, workers, or ex-employees, citing a variety of standard of living difficulties in the workplace, diminishing perks, and the company's wasteful expenditure in irrelevant areas. Irrespective of Rockstar's core operations, they weren't the first publisher to overlook a lucrative series for an extended period of time. Production is difficult these days since each big update puts a lot of careers and money on the line, especially for hugely profitable companies like Rockstar, who now have a lot of strong investors. Regardless of how much people really want to have a new Midnight Club game, convincing a lot of empty suits in a conference to endorse an arcade racing title above another sequel to a brand that is a sleeper hit like Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead is still difficult. Will the franchise see another game? Since 2019, a AAA title has been in production for numerous platforms. It's part of a major series, it's cooperative, it's appropriate for all ages, and it's an open-world driving activity. That is, without a doubt, Midnight Club 5. Or at least one can dream. Given the unfortunate news, it's likely that the franchise will return as images of a technologically advanced Midnight Club game featuring Xbox One controller instructions have surfaced on the web. These pictures first emerged on Reddit more than a year ago, and they seem to be in the alpha production stage. If this is true, the game has been in production for more than a few years, and we may be nearer to a fresh Midnight Club than we may think. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone!